there's more controversy about, I'm always surprised there's as much controversy about it as there is. Because it seems to me to be intuitive, and it actually was one of the reasons why I gravitated to A Course in Miracles was because of this teaching, and yet I find that how I view A Course in Miracles is not universally accepted. So the title of my talk is, What Does A Course in Miracles Teach About the Body? So it's really about the body and body functions and sexuality and all of that. One of the things that I really loved about A Course in Miracles when I first started studying it 39 years ago was that it didn't have all that body bad stuff going on. It didn't have all that sex bad stuff going on. It didn't have sin going on. I was raised a traditional Catholic, and sexuality very problematic for that teaching, and A Course in Miracles didn't have that, and that was one of the reasons why I liked it so much. But I have seen now that this body negating and sex negative idea is still very prevalent in the A Course in Miracles community, and you can see that in the larger community. Maybe not so prevalent in our San Francisco A Course in Miracles community, but in the larger A Course in Miracles community. And it's actually, I get it, it's a reflection of the millennia old asceticism that has crept into spirituality and religions literally for thousands and thousands of years, for millennia. Now, A Course in Miracles says many, many things about the body. And the people who want to think that we should deny the body, they can certainly find a lot of passages in A Course in Miracles to justify that perception. But the teaching of A Course in Miracles about the body is broad and multiple and nuanced. And I think, you have to take the whole teaching, and then you have to go within and find out what is true for you. Yes, A Course in Miracles says the body was made by the ego. But there's more to the teaching than just that statement. It says the body was not made by love, yet love does not condemn it, and can use it lovingly, respecting what the Son of God has made and using it to save him from illusion. So even though we may have originally manifested a body from egoic separation thoughts, we turn it over, and the Holy Spirit now uses it, and it has an entirely different purpose. And I think that's, for me, a primary teaching from A Course in Miracles, is to turn the body, turn our lives totally over to the Holy Spirit and allow it to serve our holiness and serve our divinity and serve leading us out of illusions as guided. We don't have to condemn the body and any of the body's functions. In fact, to do so is really to condemn ourselves. Even though the body isn't actually ourselves, it's our symbolic representation of who we think and believe we are right now. We don't want to condemn that. We want to bless that so we can move forward into whatever, but we just bless the moment as it is. Okay, so I'm the admin of a very, very large Facebook group on A Course in Miracles, and I'm only an admin in this group. I'm not the person who created the group, and I'm not the senior admin. I can't run the group. I can't set the policies of the group. All I can do is administer the policies that the creator and the other admin agree upon. But it is a very large group. There's 15,000 plus people in the group now, and it's very, very active. And we're having a discussion right now in this group about sexuality and the body, and it's a discussion that I started. And I started it because we've been having several discussions about sex and sexuality that I did not start, and the people who started it, or the person who started it, got upset with the way the discussions were going, and he just took them all down. And I thought, wow, these were really great discussions, but if you start the discussion, you have the ability to delete it all. So I says, I'm going to start the discussion, and that way it can't get deleted. Yeah. And so I started the discussion with a provocative, as I can, post about sexuality. Yeah. And as I looked at it right before I came in here today, there were currently 752 posts on this discussion. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot for this group to have. I think it's a lot for any Facebook group to have that many posts. And this discussion is still going on. And it's been fun. But I led with it with this idea that this sex-negative idea has crept into a lot of the world's major spiritualities. And I say sex-negative, not in any kind of judgmental way. I don't mean it like that. It's just that people who think that sexual expression is a negative on their spiritual development. And I have never ever heard anybody else use the term sex negative, but I got it from what I used to hear when people were talking about being sex positive. I have heard being sex positive. There are a lot of people who like to claim being sex, they feel good about being sexual. They feel good about their bodies. They think it's a big plus to be sexually active and expressive with it. They want to affirm that positiveness. And when I heard people talking about being sex positive, I said, well, then the opposite must also be true. There must be those sex negative people, and sure enough, there are plenty of them. But it's not a judgment, it's just how you view, sex, sexual expression, the body, sexuality. Do you think sexuality and the body is something you have to overcome in order to be spiritual? Well, then you'd be sex negative. If you think it's something you can embrace and actually develop your spirituality through, then you can be sex positive. Maybe you can be sex neutral. I've never heard that described. Okay. What else does A Course in Miracles say about the body? And this was in the reading that Steve read. It says, the body can become a sign of life, a promise of redemption, and a breath of immortality to those grown sick of breathing in the fetid scent of death. Let it have healing as its purpose, then will it send forth the message it received, and by its health and loveliness proclaim the truth and value that it represents. So if we have a proper alignment with the body, then the body projects health and loveliness and communicates health and loveliness and oneness and eternal life to everybody that we communicate with, and that's a pretty positive view on the body and life in general. And I believe, that is really the message of A Course in Miracles. So that's the body message of A Course in Miracles that I want to connect to. And then it continues, it says, let it receive the power to represent an endless life, forever unattacked. And to your brother, let its message be, behold me, brother, at your hand I live. So those of you, if you ever hear a chat going on that the Course in Miracles is a body negating discipline, remember this quotation here. The body is supposed to be in proper alignment, a sign of life and health, and it's supposed to be lovely. This has got to be the beauty secret of the ages here. Dedicate your life to healing, and you will be lovely, and you will communicate ageless, eternal beauty and life to everybody, and everybody will love you and your body. And I think, that's great. Now, the thing about these people who think that sex is somehow a negative to the spiritual, development, and they get really adamant about it. It's like it's absurd, because I never ever hear them talking about eating this way. I mean, if you want to talk about body identification, eating. Come on. How about drinking water? Nobody ever has guilt about drinking a glass of water. Forget that. How about breathing? Breathing. Wow, man, I am so addicted to breathing. If I don't do it every 10 seconds, I think I'm going to die. Come on. It's so body identifying. And nobody ever wants us to feel guilty about those things. I guess some people do about eating. But depends. Or maybe it depends on what you're drinking. But these are body functions. Eating, drinking, breathing. Yeah, somehow we single out sex, and we want to make that somehow, that's body identification. You're never going to be spiritual if you do that.
Especially this guy.
Yeah, so I mean, it just, and I led with that in my opening post on the discussion. That's what really got the discussion going, and it's really good. And what A Course in Miracles tells us is that these kind of ideas, we could think of them as tragic, but actually they're really just ridiculous. They're really just kind of silly if you look at them. It says, you who have tried to learn what you do not will should take heart, For although the curriculum you set yourself is depressing, indeed, it is merely ridiculous if you look at it. So all this body denial stuff, this asceticism that creeps into really even A Course in Miracles, it could be tragic, it might be depressing. It's really just kind of silly and ridiculous stuff. And we can move past it, we can move beyond it. We all want to move beyond it, don't we? Amen! Okay. Another thing it says about the body is merely a fact in human experience. Its abilities can be, and frequently are, over-evaluated. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. So if we want to deny the body's existence and its functions, the fact that it likes to eat food, the fact that it likes to drink water, the fact that it likes to breathe, and the fact that it likes to play, sometimes with other people or itself, naked, it's a particularly unworthy thing to deny. I mean, do what you're guided to do. Nobody needs to have sex in order to prove that they're enlightened either. But to deny wanting to be sexual, however you feel the loving, fun way to do that, is really a particularly unworthy form of denial. And there's a lot in A Course in Miracles, I think, about just being happy. I mean, people they suffer over the teaching. So, and I guess they do this with a lot of spiritualities. You just think sacrifice is called for and it's got to be hard work. But A Course in Miracles really tells us that it's all about really being just happy and making yourself glad. And I really love this passage because I think it sums it up for me really good. It says, have you really considered how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourselves and how many of them you have refused? It's not talking about, it doesn't say, have you really considered how many opportunities you have had to be in spiritual bliss? No, it doesn't say that. It just says gladden yourself. Have you really considered how many opportunities you've had just to be glad, just to be happy, just to have a little fun? And how many of them you have refused? In other words, stop refusing them all. You can be open to them. You can be open to just being glad. That garlic pizza you had last night with a beer and a friend, it was glad. You had fun, You don't have to feel guilt because you ingested organic matter, proving your bodily identity. Oh my God, you're never going to get to heaven because you had that pizza last night. It's absurd. These ideas are really just ridiculous. They're not depressing, they're just kind of silly. And I think it's about time, the Course in Miracles community, and I think the Community Miracle Center, San Francisco Course in Miracles community could really lead the way here, to just really let people know that it's okay to have fun. It's okay to be glad. It's okay to have experiences of the body. Those are the ones that we're having. When it comes time for us not to have experiences of the body, we won't. But I don't have to live in the future. I don't have to prepare for a future that's, who knows what the hell the future is? I mean, there's no sex in heaven. How do you know? Maybe it's all sex in heaven. Maybe it's all just formless light bodies merging and in and out and through each other and being blissful and gooey and loving and happy. It could be one continuous orgasm in heaven. What about? That's just as likely. As a matter of fact, I think that's more likely. I think it's more likely that it's like that than this kind of strange sexless thing. I mean, sex has got to be a reflection of something good, I believe. I don't know what heaven is like. I don't care. I'm not in heaven. I mean, I know I'm in heaven in reality, but right now I'm supposed to be involved with the experience that I have right here, and that's all I'm supposed to be involved with. Course in Miracles says to learn this course requires willingness to question every value that you hold. Not one can be kept hidden and obscure, but it will jeopardize your learning. No belief is neutral. So we have to challenge these values that say that there's something wrong with the body or something wrong, not spiritual, about our body's experiences. and that we somehow have to deny them. I think we have to question those, and we are questioning them. Now, A Course in Miracles isn't saying just to like dive headfirst into the world and just have all the worldly experiences you want. I mean, it's not that teaching either. It's about a middle way. And this is a little longer passage, but I think it spells it out pretty clearly. It says, many have chosen to renounce the world while still believing its reality, and they have suffered from a sense of loss and have not been released accordingly. Others have chosen nothing but the world, and they have suffered from a sense of loss still deeper, which they did not understand. Okay, see, this is exactly what the Buddha came up with. The Buddha tried all that renunciation for years. The Buddha almost died because he was so involved with letting go of body and body appetites and to prove that he wasn't really a body and that he could fast and abstain, and with all that letting go of body activities like eating and drinking, you would somehow become closer to God. And if you know the story about the Buddha, so he was frustrated that he got really close, couldn't really make it, determined, one last time, I'm going to let go of this body stuff, and was days and days, and suddenly he realized he was going to die. He was so starved and thirsty and dehydrated that he couldn't move. And then he just had the thought that this isn't right. This isn't right. I'm just killing myself. This isn't really what, this can't be. I'm no more enlightened than I ever was. I'm just like addicted to death. And then a person, I mean, the legend is this woman came along that had some rice and milk and gave it to him, and it was enough to revive him. And he came up with the middle way, that stuff was valuable. He can't take it too far. He can't just jump into the world too much either. There's a balance that you have to have. And this is exactly what A Course in Miracles says. It says, between these paths, there is another road that leads away from loss of every kind. For sacrifice and deprivation both are quickly left behind. This is the way appointed for you now. You walk this path as others walk, nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. When we walk the A Course in Miracles path, we don't appear like some, ascetic who is, fasting all the time and praying all the time or we just appear like regular people. We do the things that regular people do. We eat, we drink, we breathe, and we fuck. And maybe. And that's what we do. And we seem just like regular people because we are regular people. But we're doing it in a different mindset, and we're not seeing all that as our salvation, but we're not renouncing it either. We're being led and we are being guided. So I think we have to just be aware of these different body asceticism ideas that still are really prevalent. And I honor them, and I'm not saying anybody has to do anything. It's not the message I get from A Course in Miracles. I am not here to tell God how he should appear to me. God's only going to appear to me if I'm an ascetic and give up sex. No, that's me pointing the road to God by which he should appear. And that Course in Miracles says that. God will do his part in joyful and immediate response. Ask and receive. But do not make demands nor point the road to God by which he should appear to you. The way to reach him is merely to let him be. For in that way is your reality acclaimed as well. We don't tell God what the spiritual way looks like. We don't tell God what the spiritual way looks like. We let God tell us what our particular spiritual way looks like. And we surrender into that. That acclaims God's reality. That acclaims our reality. And that gives us a proper and healthy and healed and holy relationship with our body and all of its functions. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Amen.